1. I escaped a bank robbery in the most terrifying way possible. It was a typical day, or so I thought. I walked into the bank, just like I had done countless times before. As I pushed open the door, I was met with the warm, welcoming smile of the cashier behind the counter. But something wasn't right. Her eyes widened, and without a word, she subtly shook her head. Before I could fully process the situation, I turned around, and there it was, a man with a gun, standing tall and demanding control of the bank. My heart raced. My instincts screamed for me to run. I didn't think twice. I pivoted, my feet barely touching the ground as I bolted for the exit. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I reached my car. I slammed the door shut, hands shaking as I dialed 911. My mind was in a blur. Who was that man? What was going to happen to everyone inside? All I knew was that I had to get out of there as fast as possible. As I drove away, the sound of sirens filled the air. I couldn't help but wonder if my decision to run had saved my life. Was it pure luck? Or was it the most terrifying moment of my life that pushed me to act? I still don't know. But one thing's for sure, the fear in my chest that day never quite left me. 2. What we heard in the mountains almost became my last memory. We were hiking in the mountains. The sun was already setting when suddenly out of nowhere I heard a low, hoarse groan roll through the trees. It wasn't a normal animal sound. No, this was something else. Something that sent a chill straight to my spine. The hair on the back of my neck stood up, and without thinking, we started hurrying down the slope faster than I could even process what was happening. The feeling was almost like someone was shooting at us from the trees. My heart was racing, and my feet were moving faster than my mind could keep up. I knew whatever it was. It wasn't a friendly animal. The noise kept getting closer, and I could feel the pressure mounting as we tried to escape. Every second felt like an eternity. We made it down the hill, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still out there, following us. To this day, I have no idea what that sound was or what could have been lurking in the trees. But I know this for sure. Whatever it was terrifying, and it made me question everything I thought I knew about the wilderness. 3. The terrifying encounter with a stranger on a dark road. It was around 2 a.m. when we were driving on a dark, desolate road. The headlights barely pierced through the thick night, and the silence around us felt unnatural. Suddenly, I saw something in the distance, a figure lying in the middle of the road. It was strange, almost eerie. My friend slowed down, about to stop to help, but something inside me screamed that it wasn't right. I immediately told him, "Don't stop, just drive around it." Something about that man didn't sit well with me. I couldn't explain it, but every instinct I had was telling me that we were walking into a trap. We drove around the figure, and as we continued down the road, I kept looking in the rearview mirror. When we passed the spot again, there was no sign of the man. He had vanished without a trace. Could it have been a drunk person or maybe a shepherd? I'll never know. But that moment of fear, that gut feeling that something was terribly wrong, has stuck with me for years. It's a haunting memory that I can't shake. 4. I almost fell into a dangerous trap while trying to help an old woman. I was out for a run one afternoon when I noticed an old woman sitting on the sidewalk. She waved at me, and in the spirit of kindness, I ran up to see if she needed help. She looked frail, and as she spoke, she asked if I could assist her in getting up. Her voice sounded weak, but there was something unsettling about the whole situation. I agreed to help her, but as I bent down to assist her, a strange feeling crept over me. It was like a sudden wave of anxiety, a deep, unshakable feeling that something wasn't right. She continued to beg for help, but every instinct in me screamed to get away. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into something dangerous. I apologized, told her I couldn't help, and quickly ran off, my heart pounding in my chest. As I turned back for just a moment, I saw a black truck pull up to her. She stood up easily without any trouble and got into the vehicle like it was completely normal. I ran home faster than I ever had before, my mind racing with thoughts of what could have happened if I had stayed. Maybe I was just being paranoid, but 15 years later, I still get chills when I think about it. What if they had been waiting for someone like me? It's a feeling I can never forget. 5. The moment that changed my life forever. During the Iran Revolution, January 1979, Iran. I was only 9 years old. My mother was a low-ranking diplomat, and one day she came home with news that would change our lives forever. She told us we had only 90 minutes to get to the airport and leave the country. The tension was palpable. The Shah's family was already on their way to the airport, and the government was collapsing, possibly within hours. Everything was falling apart, and there was no time to waste. We quickly packed one suitcase for the 4 of us, grabbed about $500, and boarded a cargo plane. That night, the revolution erupted, and by morning, the country had been overtaken. Many people died, and countless others lost everything. We found ourselves in the United States, far from the turmoil we left behind. But the fear and uncertainty of those moments stayed with me for years. I still think back to that time, wondering what would have happened if we hadn't left when we did. It was a moment of pure survival, of knowing that your world was about to change in ways you couldn't even begin to understand. 6. Surviving the Halloween tragedy in Seoul. It was 2022, and I was in Seoul, South Korea for Halloween. The city was buzzing with excitement, filled with people out celebrating the festive night. But what started as an ordinary evening soon turned into a nightmare. I was with my friends, walking down the crowded streets, when things began to feel wrong. The atmosphere shifted, and there was an undeniable sense of danger in the air. We were packed so tightly that it was almost impossible to move. The streets felt like they were closing in on us, and the sounds of screams and panic started to rise. It took us nearly 5 hours to escape from that chaos, and even now, every time I think about that night, my heart races. The events that followed left many people dead or injured, and I couldn't help but feel the weight of the lives lost, knowing we had narrowly avoided the worst of it. To this day, I can't fully come to terms with what happened. The flashing lights, the chaos, the victims, it all feels like a nightmare that I can't wake up from. Halloween in Seoul went from being a time of celebration to a horrific tragedy, and the memory of that night is burned into my mind forever. 7. The terrifying escape from the forest fire. As a child, I went on a camping trip in the mountains with a group of friends and some guards. It was a beautiful day, and we were just finishing setting up our camp when things suddenly took a turn for the worse. We heard it first, a distant rumble in the air, a low, ominous sound that made our skin crawl. The wind shifted, and then, through the trees, we saw the orange glow. A forest fire was rapidly approaching, and it wasn't going to stop. The guards acted quickly, gathering all of us, about 15 children, and leading us down the mountain in a hurried but organized march. I remember the urgency in their voices, their eyes wide with fear, but they kept it together for our sake. We were rushed to a nearby roadside restaurant, but even as we sat there, I could feel the tension in the air. The fire was getting closer, and the guards were doing everything in their power to protect us. Now, as an adult, I look back at those young men who were responsible for our safety. I can't imagine the fear they must have felt, knowing that their lives and ours were in their hands. They kept us safe, and I'll never forget how close we came to disaster. It was one of those moments in life where the true nature of fear is felt, not from what you see, but from the threat you can't escape. 8. The taxi that nearly became my worst nightmare. I was driving in the outskirts of Monterrey, Mexico, when it happened. I was heading toward the northern part of the city when I felt a sudden, sharp jolt from behind. My heart skipped a beat as I looked in the rearview mirror, spotting a taxi closely tailing me. The 2 boys in the front seat waved at me to pull over, but something about them felt off, There was no back seat in the car, just an empty space. My instincts screamed that something wasn't right, and my gut told me to get away, fast. Without hesitating, I slammed my foot on the gas pedal, leaving them behind. I wasn't about to stop, no matter what they wanted. I had heard too many horror stories of people being robbed, assaulted, or worse in situations like this. As I drove away, I could see the taxi slowly pulling back, but it didn't chase me. I didn't know if they had been trying to scam me or if something darker was going on, but I wasn't about to find out. I didn't relax until I was miles away. My heart still races when I think about that moment. The feeling of danger was undeniable, and I'll never know how close I really came to being a victim that night. 9. The terrifying music festival chaos that almost ended in tragedy. It was a hot summer day, and I was at an outdoor music festival. The atmosphere was electric, filled with people eagerly waiting for the next band to take the stage. But as the minutes passed and the band was delayed, the crowd started to grow restless. You could feel the tension in the air, thickening by the second. Suddenly, it started. Bottles, thrown by impatient festival-goers, began to rain down onto the stage. Water bottles, empty and flattened, were hurled with growing force, and the stage workers scrambled to keep things under control. It felt like the entire crowd was on the verge of losing control. Then the music started. The band took the stage, and that was when everything erupted. The crowd surged forward, pushing and shoving, desperate to get closer to the action. I was right in the middle of it, and the pressure was suffocating. In an instant, a massive 140-kilogram guy fell onto me and my friends, pinning us under his weight. We were trapped, struggling to breathe under the sheer force of the crowd. It took 5 men to get him off us. The panic was palpable, but somehow we managed to get to our feet, though barely. But then things got even worse. The crowd around us was closing in, and there seemed to be no way out. Just when I thought we were doomed, a 2-meter-tall punk with a red mohawk saw our struggle. He shouted, "The only way out is up!" and stretched out his arms, helping us climb higher above the chaos. With his help, we finally broke free. We found a safe spot and stayed there for the rest of the concert, too shaken to enjoy the music. It was a night that could have turned into a disaster, but thanks to the unexpected kindness of a stranger, we made it out alive. 10. The robbery that wasn't, but could have been. It was my 8th birthday, and my family was celebrating at a small, out-of-the-way restaurant. The atmosphere was cozy, but the place felt isolated, far from the busy streets. My 2 younger sisters were there, along with my mother, my aunt, and a few other children ranging from 8 to 12 years old. The food was average, the kind of place you wouldn't remember unless something strange happened. And something strange did happen. 2 boys walked into the restaurant. They were acting suspicious, glancing around the room as if searching for something or someone. The way they kept looking at our table immediately made my mother uneasy. There were no other patrons except us, and only the 2 employees worked there. One of the boys kept fidgeting with his pocket, and the other seemed incredibly nervous. He stepped outside, pacing back and forth. After a while, his partner joined him, trying to convince him to go back in, but he didn't listen. The other boy eventually returned on his own, but didn't order anything. My mother was on alert. She told us to gather our things and leave immediately. We didn't question her. We just followed her instructions, and as we left, I could see the boys quickly making their exit as well. We never found out what their intentions were, but the entire experience felt wrong. As an adult, I'm certain that what we witnessed was the setup for a robbery. But for whatever reason, one of the boys must have had a change of heart. Maybe it was the sight of my mother with 4 young children that stopped him. If they are still out there, I can only thank them for sparing us that day. It's been over 30 years since that moment, but I still can't shake the feeling that we were incredibly lucky.